We welcome this morning from MCC, Pabitra Paramanya. I had to say that because I've practiced all week. From Kolkata, India, who may or may not be joining us as I speak, and Amanda Dodge from local MCC, who's going to introduce the topic this morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Wildwood. Thank you so much for having MCC as part of your service this morning about creation, care, and climate change. As Glade mentioned off the top, MCC's current advocacy campaign is called Climate Action for Peace, and it was motivated by hearing our partners around the world talk about how climate change is negatively impacting their lives. And they've urged us to tell their stories and also to support Canadians who want to respond to these harms happening. What can we do here at home? So we're so fortunate this morning to have one of MCC's international representatives, Pabitra Paramanya, present with us. And he'll be teaching us about the impact of climate change and sharing some stories from Eastern India, which is the region in which he does his work with MCC partners. Pabitra will be speaking for about 20 minutes, and then we'll have a chance for a Q&A for another 10 minutes. And it's my pleasure to introduce him. So Pabitra is a MCC project officer serving in the food security and livelihood sector for the India Country Program for the last 10 years. He has a degree in botanical science and a master's in agricultural science. He finds relationship-centered development the most rewarding aspect of his work. He enjoys talking with local farmers about the impact of climate change, working to find sustainable solutions to its effects, and celebrating the community's successes. Pabitra lives in Kolkata, India with his wife and young daughter. He grew up in a farming family and still farms today with his parents. And I can say in working with Pabitra over the last few weeks preparing for this morning that he's just a lovely human being and has been so thorough in his preparedness for today. So I know we're in for a real treat. Over to you, Pabitra.
Yes, so very good morning to all of you, and I'm very thankful to MCC Saskatoon, definitely Amanda, Pastor Joe, and the whole congregation of Wildwood Mennonite Church. And this is a great opportunity to share stories from India. Thank you for your work. I see like to create more peace and hope-filled relationships and to establish climate action for peace. I think very important thing we have to work together to deal with this. So this morning I bring greetings from all India staff. I think next slide, please. Yes, so this is the all staff and my family. So this is the greetings. Next. So this is here like very small size property. Like I also do farm and we grow rice once in a year and also seasonal vegetables as per different climatic situation. And where majority of our rural communities in India also have the similar, I think our project participants especially, and they are dependent on farming and forest and common lands to fulfill their livelihood needs. And nowadays, I think land fragmentation is a very persistent issue, and in India, and with the size of land very much decreasing with each successive generation. And we mostly work with those small farmers in India. Next. Yeah, so here our project location, and MCC in India confined its work, especially in the eastern part of the country and 5 states you see is marked, and where the first 3 having the active projects in this fiscal year. And yeah, you can continue the next slide. You'll able to see this how India also yeah, this is a Chhattisgarh, then Odisha, then Jharkhand, West Bengal, Bihar. So these are the 5 states. At present, we have no project in Bihar and Jharkhand, and the top 3 having projects. So in last couple of centuries, India definitely has lost over like 40% of its mangroves and half of the forest and significant, I think, amount of wetlands. So that's why soil erosion, salinization, desertification, and different soil degradation, yeah, all are associated with the agriculture production, and deforestation reduce the land quality and agriculture productivity. Next. So this is the present programming in India. I just showed the resource percentage, and presently we have 28 projects across 4 sectors, and obviously the resource percentage is very high in food security and livelihood sector, where more skills and capacity are required to deal with the climate change issue, and education, health, and peace. So in one way, like shortage of resources like food, income, livelihood, and have direct impact definitely on the other sectoral projects. Next. Yeah, so this slide is showing like the weather extremity. Just in last, like previous month in April, the temperature in this part of the world, it was very shocking for us. Continuously over 1 month, it was 42, 43 degrees centigrade, and that's what we experienced. And I think this extremity is everywhere, whether it is your Arctic polar zone and subtropics, tropical, as Pastor said, flood, drought, heat waves, tropical cyclone, wildfires, extreme precipitation, all are very, very common now. Next. Yeah, so this is from Kolkata, where 43 degrees C, centigrade you see. Next slide. Yeah, so overall, this particular slide, I tried to show like how climate change is becoming a serious issue, and is now we have to give much attention and topmost priority, like especially where agriculture is, because agriculture is connected to food and nutrition security. And this, you see the food production challenges, especially like it's a very complex now, like competition is increasing day by day, and as the population is increasing in India, like growing food demand, then always like the insect pest attack, that's complexity is also very common. And one way resource degradation is another pressing issue. And every time we hear from farmers like yield is not like becoming more, like wherever like they use very improved seed variety or whatever, but some way it's very stagnant. So overall, we calculated, like we see the total factor productivity, what we call in agriculture, like how much output can be produced from a certain amount, like certain number of inputs. That's total factor productivity is declining very much. So it's overall is very complex, and especially also in India, like our agriculture dependent fully on monsoon rain, and that is also very, very sensitive to climate change. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I think we always talk and MCC and its partner globally always talking on this climate change adaptation and mitigation. And definitely, I think these are very known to everyone. And so I just want to mention in this slide, like when you think about the fact that climate has changed and continues to change, and it's an irreversible process, definitely our top priority is adaptation. And adaptation and mitigation are very much complementary strategies. While adaptation is key in reducing risk associated with climate change impacts, but it does not really address the root cause of climate change. So that's why mitigation and adaptation are essential to a comprehensive climate risk reduction strategy. So the development NGOs in India are recognizing the importance of many adaptation strategies, especially, and also our partners, they are doing advocacy and also trying to collaborate with government, and so that all all together can address this issue. Next slide. Yeah, so here I already explained climate change adaptation and mitigation, why it is important. Yes, let's go side by side. Next slide. So how we can do mainstreaming of climate change into our programming across all sectors. So that's we started in India, like to integrate the concept into the situation assessment and project design process. And we conduct here also separate environmental assessment, as MCC also wants this. And that helps us to assess and consider how mainstreaming of climate change is possible. And we always try to see what are the dividers? How does climate change divide people or create conflict? And then how could climate change also connect people and promote peace? This photo I used here, it explains also how this is in a spring water harvesting project, and this climate change issue actually connecting people, and they are promoting more peace, and they are working together to solve this water crisis, and I think they are adding more peace in their daily livelihood. Next. So these are just, I may go quick, and because these are some key questions we put while we do the analysis here. And so I'm not reading all the questions here. It's very helpful, I could say, to analyze how the climate vulnerability and what kind of capacity we can have to respond on climate risk. So knowledge, what kind of information, resources, and different people need to do better respond to climate risk. Yes. So next slide. Yeah, here that also with the analysis, how it helps us to paint a picture of the situation before climate change. Then we can identify the main problems currently, and for whom it is a more problem, like for women, for men, or is there any other vulnerable communities. And then we can also identify possible interventions to address the current situations. And then also we can design okay, over what time frame we can have this project, and then for what purpose. Do we need to produce more food, or we can maybe address the carbon emission and like that. So we need to think about this. So this kind of analysis very much helpful for us. Next. Yeah, definitely. Like as we like our sector and food security and livelihood, we are working with farmers and those who are very small farmers, small landholders. But still, that's very important to know like what farmers telling us. Otherwise, we cannot understand like how climate change is impacting locally. So that's why I said like when I ask farmer, what keeps you at night, or maybe what worries you most about the future of your farm and way of life, and I would say that as high as half of the time, like the answer is related to climate change. And most of the older farmers in village who are in remote areas and they are uneducated, but they are very consistently talk about how seasonality has shifted and many other changes. So that's what I feel like farmers and development practitioners like us, like they should always understand the local impact of the climate change, and all the experiences like farmers experience simply deepen our thoughts, which indicates that the climate is doing different things than it used to be just 30 years ago. Next. So that's why I'm this question also for me and for all of you also, like are farmers having key solutions then to climate change? And we deal with very smallholder farmers here, but still I think globally if we see the smallholder manage still significant portions of land, and where land care necessitates definitely farmers engagement, and because they have the in-depth familiarity with their soils and livestock. And here we can understand also the carbon capture, soil carbon storage, and land care also matters. Yes. Soil carbon is also linked to the benefits of soil organic matter. And so here you see this farmer, the picture, Mrs. Murmu and Mr. Murmu. They are very thankful to MCC and its local partner when we train them on the different climate adaptation practices. Yeah, next. Yeah, so these are the some factors I mentioned. Atmospheric carbon can be transferred to the soil. So we are all teaching this and we are feeling that they are also important. Yes, next slide. Yes, this slide is here. I just made a summary and maybe small block you could see, and I hope it is readable. But here mostly the resource management techniques what we are following in this in our area project where MCC is operating to address the different climate change issues. And because this sector is most vulnerable we see, and that's why management of resources, land, water, and definitely carbon and nitrogen and all this I put separately because we are following specific strategies and adaptation strategies. So many farmers they leveling their land through MCC support. Wherever the hill slopes are there, maybe the indigenous community, they are living in the hill slopes and forest. So they are following some sloping agricultural land technology and zero tillage. We are also following relay cropping so that before harvesting the monsoon crop, they can broadcast another pulse crop so that the residual moisture in soil can be helpful for the next crop. And zero tillage definitely in India now in many states it's becoming very popular, and government of India also promoting. And for small farmers still we see some challenges to in a like full-fledged zero tillage practice, but we are already started doing. And for water, another I think scarcity in everywhere, and so the SRI system of rice intensification for rice, that paddy cultivation we are following, and many partners they are also working on rainwater harvest. They are MCC supporting for some digging farm pond, and then spring water harvesting wherever is possible in the hilly areas, so that through gravity flow we are bringing it down. And definitely the organic manures, and that's the very common practices here we are all promoting. And conservation agriculture, agroforestry, woodlot within that agroforestry design, and livestock rearing. We also do it because here there are very small number of livestock, 10, 12, maybe goats or like that. That's the capacity we see in our farmers. So in a small way, how better they can manage the livestock like excretor, and they can convert into the compost, and they can make some additional income from the livestock side by side. And different paste, fertilizers, these are also we are using. For fixing nitrogen, as much as we are avoiding the chemical like urea and other sorts, but mostly leguminous crop and crop rotation, green manuring, some specific dose also we are promoting. And yeah, so here these are the resource management practices. Is that is not only like MCC and its partner, but we are also promoting and saying, like advocating also, like with partner like you connect with a different government institutional, like you take government institutional support, so that you can have a better resource management to address climate change issues. Next. Yeah, you see the farmer mostly rice is a very staple, I think major staple crop in our project area definitely, and also in India. And it's very easy, like you see in the monsoon time now, I think by July the rain will come, and mostly farmer will wait like when to transplant paddy. And flooded paddy fields are, I think many talks are going on, like it's promoting, like producing more methane, and definitely the green house gas. I think the 10% of agriculture greenhouse gas emissions are coming from that paddy field. That's what the project drawdown data says. So we are promoting the SRI. So the next slide, you see like the SRI picture, and through this adaptation strategy, we can reduce the carbon emission. So yeah, more than 70% farmers are practicing SRI, where alternate soaking and drying as much as possible we are promoting. In monsoon time, little bit difficult because heavy precipitation sometimes happens, and but whoever is producing rice in like the winter season, then definitely like they are very much controlling the irrigation, and so that they can address the climate change. They can pull maybe less water from the ground. So all these practices are going on. Next slide. Yeah, so here I just want to remember this lady farmer, Mrs. Shuki Murmu. She learned this in 2000, I think 17, and still she's continuing this practice, that system of rice intensification. And yes, and she also said like as many years I can continue this. So these are the very good example how MCC is I think teaching is helping the poor communities. Next. Yeah, this here another farmer. I took this photo just 6 months ago. and he actually is a pioneer member in that entire community in Sinising village. So my learning is like for a small farmer, practicing agriculture is not just about increasing yield. Sometimes we may feel that like, yeah, you have to produce more food and more production, but rather than how MCC and partner can find like how the farming is way of life, and for this small farmer, and they are the healer of the land. So he was awarded by the government of India, and still he use the spring water for cultivation, and he's a good example for other farmers. And so that's what I remember, and I want to just share this his story. Next. Here another farmer like who is more with agroforestry approaches. They received 7 years back. They adopted these agroforestry practices, and now if you whenever you visit in their farm, like you could see like average 25 number of crop varieties. They are always producing in their farm, and one after another. And in an interview, like the Mr. Nag and Mrs. Nag, they were sharing like, I never handled 100,000 like Indian rupee in my hand, but I am preparing my garden in such a way that it will give more than 500,000 in maybe another 5 years. So that's the beauty of this agroforestry approach. And definitely through this agroforestry, we are also connecting how the climate change, different issues they can be able to address. And in the whole region, now about 78 agroforestry farms are very active, and other farmers are joining one by one. So next. So in this, I just want to, everyone is very much aware, but I just want to touch on this, like climate change affects men and women very differently. That's what we learned. And because there are different social and cultural gender norms. So, and women are more exposed to climate hazards, and for them also resources are very fewer. And in India, many I think society like land also not transferred into the woman's name, and so the resources are very limited for them. So for any climatic hazards happened, so I think they are they become more vulnerable than men. So we are also talking, when we do the gender analysis and climate together, then we also try to find it like how we can address and how we can put more design in our program. So yeah, next slide please. Yes, here just IPCC report, and very recent report 2023. Like they projected, like how poverty and hunger are expected to rise, and as a result of climate change, and that's especially how many women and girls can be affected. And we see the very large figure by 2050. So definitely you can read this report, IPCC, International Panel for Climate Change report, and we see that, we experience that, and how it is true, this analysis. Next slide. Yeah, so definitely, and this is a very positive thing we see, and we learned in our program that women are very essential leaders for adaptation. And that's why in our project, we mostly include the self-help group members. That is pretty much common in Indian villages. And so all the women members, they are equally take part in the program, and we want to ensure the rights and well-being of women and girls, and that should go like hand in hand kind of. So definitely they must have equal leadership roles in decision making, and where climate change and solutions are being discussed. And we see like indigenous women they are often holders of traditional and ecological knowledge. That's what we felt. And so they are very important part also our program. These two women also, I worked with them, and they are very much like the traditional way of they are training other members, and they are addressing different climate change impact, and by planting right kind of trees, and adopting different gardening approach and all cropping system. And they are also in a very forefront, like they're putting leadership for other women and for other community members also. Yes. Next. Yeah, so they are early adopters. They are keepers of traditional knowledge. Yes. So yes, I think next concluding thought is like no single system, like or strategy works is acceptable for every farmer. So we need to continue working with farmers to identify approaches that address climate change while also meeting their needs. And farmers are well positioned to implement site-specific solutions to climate change. And this is a very complex issue. We may never fully understand all of the factors that affect climate. But the basic principle is we must deepen our understanding on this issue and encourage each other. Continue to talk with farmers in the project area. Their knowledge and will be extremely valuable in developing effective and climate smart strategies. Yes, that's what I'm concluding. And I also want to just mention, like, here maybe I mostly talked about farmers, but everyone, and personally also I take many actions, and I also teach my children in my surrounding, my community. Always I talk how we can address this climate change impact, and how better we can take like God's creation a good care. Yes. Thank you, Amanda, and all everyone. We can have some question answer session definitely.
Thank you so much, Pabitra. And I think we've got a couple minutes for questions. So what's come up for people? Yes.
So it said that between 10 and 40% of crop production is going down. And so I'm just curious, does that mean that people will just go without? Or it just means that their expenses are higher, that they have to buy them, and they can't afford that, and so then they'll go without? Or it's just because there's, yeah, just curious about that.
Pabitra, did you hear that? Or I can repeat the question.
Please repeat that question.
Yes, certainly. So the question was, given that there's a 10 to 40% reduction in crop production, does that mean that folks are going without, or does it mean that there's higher costs around food that people are able to manage or not?
For rice production?
I believe so. Or in general, food production? Yeah,
Yes,
the
in
10 to
general, food
40% reduction in
production.
food.
Okay. Yeah, in general, food production cost definitely increasing, and small farmers also struggling to improve their yield, and because all the input cost very much increased in last decade. So definitely the food production, I think cost is increasing, and that's why our project approach, we always like try to find like what are the local materials available. So That's why composting through the available resources from their farm and all those things, we always give them that training and how easily they can compost. And so in different way they can reduce the food production cost, but it increased. Yes, answer is yes.
Thank you. Yeah, Wayne. Oh, we've got a traveling mic. Great.
Hello? Yeah. I had a question. SRI, I didn't quite get what that was, but I think I know the general idea was that it involves rice production without flooding fields and without the attendant methane emissions, which seems to account for a large amount of greenhouse gas emissions, this way of flooding production. And I'm wondering, it seems to me that SRI was developed in your area, Pabitra? Is that right?
Pabitra, did that question come through all right about SRI?
A little bit I heard. Can you?
All right.
I had two questions. One was SRI developed in your area, and it seems like such a magical solution for this problem. Is it something that's being adopted in wider areas in India?
So the question was in two parts about SRI, Pabitra, about was it in fact developed in India? And secondly, has it been adopted in other regions?
Oh, I think SRI first, it was the concept came in Madagascar island, and one parish priest, Father Lawline, I think he brought this idea to manage the resources within that island. And in India also, I think mostly in southern region now very well accepted, but and in eastern part last one decade is mostly I think very also like the adoption rate is very high. And yes, is in India it is from 1980s it's going on these adaptation strategies.
Thank you. Do we have time for one more question? Yeah, one more. If there are any. I think we did have one on the other side of the sanctuary, Wayne, but we can see if we've got time for more.
Hi. I was wondering, when temperatures rise to 45 to 47, is there a huge loss of life, maybe perhaps for the elderly, but also how do people cope with those kind of temperatures and how do they survive that?
So that question was about temperatures when they rise to 45 to 47 degrees. We definitely had a lot of audible wows in the congregation when you mentioned that. What is the impact in terms of loss of life? Are people able to cope with the rising heat?
Yeah, few casualties happened in city, even the rural area. And I think repeatedly the alert was there, like if you not require like to work outside, so just avoid extreme heat. And like the water scarcity in many districts, it became very pressing issue. And most of the tube wells like where people actually like drinkable water, like no water was there, it all like gone down very much, so mostly defunct. So more kilometers you have to walk to fetch drinkable water. And especially in my island, my mother also going at least 3 kilometers away to find drinkable water. So I think these are the issues in different places. It's a different issues we found, like, and mostly like highly impacted on education. All the schools were closed almost 20 to 30 days, and some schools they came up with online idea, just like the COVID pandemic time. And so, like in a multiple way, like the heat wave, I think impacted very badly this time.
Well, thank you. Wayne, did you want to ask? Okay, I think we'll wrap up our Q&A, and I just, on behalf of the congregation here, just want to thank you so much, Pabitra, for the sobering realities you shared today and just the compelling information about climate change and its impact, as well as how adaptation and mitigation practices are improving food production and quality of life there. And especially thank you for sharing the photos and stories of people who are impacted and being supported. So thank you so much for sharing with us generously today.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, all the congregation members.
But just before I close here, I just wanted to speak a bit to some of the opportunities that we have to respond to what we just learned this morning through advocacy actions. MCC has a letter writing campaign to the Canadian government seeking policy change to make a difference in communities like Pabitra mentioned. I'd like to if we could go to the next slide, Richard, just direct your attention to MCC's website. You can get there by typing it in, or there's a QR code that will get you there. And it has letter writing options that they're twofold. One is on adaptation, so asking the Canadian government to send meaningful funds to countries who are affected by climate change to adapt. The second one is around justice and mitigation. It emphasizes that we in Canada are one of the highest per capita greenhouse gas emitters and urges our government to support fair share emissions reductions and assist impacted countries. The website also has just lots of other stories and content on affected communities and what MCC partners are doing to support them. So thanks for the opportunity to highlight that, and thanks again for having us.